wild. It's wild stuff. Bonus damage of 1d6 whenever you hit a blind person. This feature is busted. Hello and welcome back to Homebrew Review, where I analyze your homebrew and see whether or not it's balanced or it's broken. On the chopping block for today is the Concave of the Bounty Hunter by the One of Many. I'll be going through each feature and giving some pointers on formatting, flavor, and mechanics. But thematically, what even is a Bounty Hunter Ranger? We know classically that Rangers are much more focused on exploration and an aspect of nature, so is it like the Beastmaster that teams up with their animal companion, or is it like the Horizon Walker that protects us from otherworldly threats? Well, according to the intro text, it's like neither of these. Bounty Hunters are far more focused on tracking down and eliminating anyone, essentially focused on cleaning up the mess within our civilization. Meaning, as we review the subclass, the question we should be asking ourselves is, are the features mechanically representing this nature of a Bounty Hunter? Well, thankfully, the Bounty Hunter spell list does have some answers for us. We get Disguise Self at 3rd level, Suggestion at 5th level, Fast Friends at 9th level, Mordecai's Faithful Hound at 13th level, and Dominate Person at 17th level. All these spells do feel like a spell that Bounty Hunters would have. Disguise Self works for sneaking around, Suggestion is for some good utility, Fast Friends for some manipulation, Mordecai's Faithful Hound for an alarm system, and Dominate Person for a much more aggressive approach. So I do feel like the spell list does accurately represent the idea of a Bounty Hunter. But there are some formatting issues. First, the class level should be centered with the spells leaning left and italicized. The Bounty Hunter should be changed to Bounty Hunter Magic, and other than that, I'd say the spell list is pretty good. But does the 3rd level feature the skills for the job follow this theme? Let's check. At 3rd level, you have developed the perfect skills for reading people and places alike. Wherever you make a Charisma, Intimidation, or Intelligence investigation check, you gain a bonus equal to your Wisdom modifier to the check. This is pretty nice for a Bounty Hunter themed subclass, using Intimidation to pressure people into giving out information, or even Investigation to track down the people that you're hunting. Both are really good tools for out-of-combat utility. On the mechanical side, if you have proficiency with these skills, it's essentially a +2 boost, assuming you place some points into your Wisdom. However, I do want to notice some formatting issues. There should be no capitalization on any of the U's, all the features due starting at or beginning at, both Charisma and Investigation should be capitalized, Check shouldn't be capitalized, you should capitalize Wisdom, should be whenever, not wherever, and no separate spacing between the paragraphs. But other than that, this feature is a pretty good one for role-playing a Bounty Hunter themed subclass. And at this point, you might be thinking to yourself, Kieran, where's the broken parts of this subclass? I was promised a Ranger that could never lose. Well, here's the first problem in the subclass, and it comes in the last and final 3rd level feature, Ruthless Tactics. Within this feature, there are 3 problems, but let's just see if you can spot them. At 3rd level, your time on the streets has shown you how to fight mercilessly to always get the upper hand on your opponents. When you hit a creature with a weapon attack and the creature is surprised, prone, or by an attack of opportunity, your attack deals an extra 1d6 damage. This damage increases to 1d8 at the 7th level and to 1d10 at 11th level. Now this is a pretty good feature. Having the extra damage procced on a attack of opportunity, prone, or even surprise invites an amazing amount of flavor. I could just imagine shoving someone to the floor or pushing them prone and then just wailing on them, or when they do an attack of opportunity, you stab them in the back, or getting the jump on someone through an ambush to get the surprise condition. It's an amazing way to represent the flavor of mercilessness, which I just have to give props to that. I think it's awesome. But did you see the 3 problems? If you didn't, well, here's the first one. It's damage. Specifically, damage type. You don't say the specific type of damage this extra damage is, but this is honestly a pretty easy fix. You just change it, add it in. But the second and third problems are harder to solve. The second problem is the trigger. Surprise, an attack of opportunity, and prone are hard to trigger at 3rd level. Now, let me explain. Surprise is only once per combat. You can't prone a creature yourself, because if you do the prone action, you'd use your action, and then on the following turn, the enemy would just get back up. And then the attack of opportunity is entirely dependent on whether or not the creature wants to leave or not. So you can't just proc that whenever you want to proc that, which also ties into the 3rd problem, damage. 1d6 extra damage isn't a problem. What is kind of uncommon is the increasing damage at 7th level and 11th level. That's not a thing that we usually see. The only examples I could scrounge up are 1d4 to 1d6 from the Fey Wanderer's Dreadful Strikes, and 1d8 to 2d8 for the Horizon Walker's Planar Warrior. Now, just because it hasn't been done doesn't mean it's bad. But the problem is that this, combined with the fact that it doesn't have any bounded resource, like a once per turn or a bonus action, is concerning. In fact, most, if not all, extra Ranger damage is bound by a bonus action or a once per turn feature. This means that if a creature is prone, that each strike deals 1d6 damage. While this isn't a problem at 3rd level, it could definitely balloon when you at 4th level you grab the dual wielded feat, which allows you to make an extra attack as a bonus action, and 5th level when Ranger gets your extra attack. allowing you to deal maybe 2d6, 3d6, or even 46 if you get an opportunity attack in. The damage is just high in comparison with other ranger subclasses. But now there is an interesting argument you can make where because the triggers are hard to trigger, therefore the extra damage is fair, it's allowed. I see this argument, I have to offer my own personal opinion, which is I just think it's bad design. Dungeons & Dragons is not a win it all, lose it all. You know, you don't stake everything on one thing on a very hard trigger and you get a lot of reward for it. D&D is a much more incremental game where you grow in damage over the course of multiple levels. I think an easier condition with more mediocre damage might be the way to go for this feature. I would still love to see an extra effect where maybe if you hit someone while they're prone or from an attack of opportunity that you get a new benefit. And I think that'd be pretty cool to play around with. In summary, I think there's a lot of design space to play around with. And even though I do personally have issues with both the trigger and the damage, doesn't take away from the awesome flavor that Ruthless Tactics has. I think it's a very clever way to have created this, and I want to give you props on that. Pretty cool. Now, before we move on to the 7th level feature, dynamic casting, I do want to address some formatting issues. There should be starting at or beginning at, lowercase your, don't need with, there's some spelling mistakes. Add in when you hit a creature with a weapon attack or opportunity attack, and then connect the paragraphs. Also, if you're enjoying the review, feel free to drop a like or subscribe. It really helps out the channel a lot. And if you want your homebrew review, feel free to comment down below or send it via any link in the description. Now let's jump into the 7th level feature, dynamic casting. At 7th level, you learn to never let your guard down during a confrontation, even when casting spells. Wherever you cast a ranger spell as an action, you can disengage or search as a bonus action. This is a pretty cool bounty hunter feature, especially during combat where you can use a bonus action to search to learn more information or just scout it out in general. Plus with the disengage, it'll be super efficient to just cast a spell and then disengage and then slip out of any danger if another creature is within melee range. So generally a solid feature for a bounty hunter that wants to get in and then get out pretty quickly. But that's a problem. Why? Because right now with how the subclass currently stands, that's not exactly what it wants. Ruthless Tactics promotes melee combat through a shove prone at like 5th level or being in close for an opportunity attack. But at 7th level, we're instead provided with a way to get out of combat, which, at least with how the current subclass is surrounded, doesn't make a lot of sense. The subclass mechanics pull each other apart because, again, Ruthless Tactics wants you to get in close, but then dynamic casting wants you to slip away. Also, the feature itself is pretty situational. As a half caster, I can't imagine you'd want to cast a spell just to get this bonus action disengage a lot, especially because you don't have a lot of spells. Plus, there's not a lot of good combos for this kind of combo. The best I could find was you do Cure Wounds as an action and then as a bonus action disengage so you can heal and flee at the same time. But it's this mix of pulling player psychology and situational use where I think this level 7 feature is kind of weak. Also some formatting notes, starting at and beginning at, no weird paragraph spacings, and no U capitalization. Unfortunately, I don't have a suggestion on what to do with this feature, and that's because of the level 11th feature, always ready. Now I'm going to come out and say it, this feature is busted. But let's read it first. At the 11th level, you become adept at getting the most out of enemy mistakes, even when this implies doing sucker punches or attacking fleeing enemies. You can now do opportunity attacks with long-range weapons at enemies that move inside your range. You can now apply Ruthless Tactics on enemies with the stunned, restrained, or blind conditions. I'm going to start with the good things, which is the flavor on this is pretty cool. The idea that if a creature tries to run away from you, no matter how far, you can shoot them in back is pretty cool. Plus having Ruthless Tactics now work on stun, blind, and restrained conditions is pretty cool, because as the subclass has continued, it has shown it's become more and more morally corrupt. So far as you get a bonus damage of 1d6 whenever you hit a blind person, which I think is within the game itself kind of funny, right? But also I think mechanically good storytelling. However, on the mechanical side, it's busted, and it's all because of one feat, Sentinel. When you hit a creature with an opportunity attack, the creature's speed becomes 0 for the rest of the turn. In addition, creatures provoke opportunity attacks from you even if they take the disengage action before leaving your reach. This, combined with a longbow with a range of 150 feet, makes it so that if any creature tries to move within 150 feet, you can hit them with an opportunity attack and potentially reduce their speed to 0. Which means it's going to be insanely difficult for a creature to ever get close enough to hit you within melee range. But it could also be worse. Combine this with the sharpshooter feat that states, attacking at long range doesn't impose disadvantage on your ranged weapon attack rolls, means that you could fire from 600 feet and you would still be able to reduce their speed to 0. All creatures, no matter the speed, are going to have an incredibly difficult time getting close to you. and you could just slowly chip away at them. And if they do get into melee range, you could use your dynamic casting to just slip back out of melee range again and pepper them with until they can't move. The only blessing here is that you're not invulnerable to saving throws. But even then, a lot of spells don't have a long range of 600 feet. In addition, player psychology wise, we've swapped from being rewarded in melee range with ruthless tactics, shoving prone, beating on people, to now wanting to get the hell away from everyone, becoming the next American sniper. It's wild. It's wild stuff. And now the prone condition that comes from ruthless tactics is not at all what we want. Because if a creature is prone, we get disadvantage on our ranged attack rolls at this point. Now, I do admit, this brokenness is a bit situational, but my concern is that there's very little counterplay. And if you do run a counterplay, there's a chance that the player gets upset because their whole build is ruined. Also, just generally, Sentinel is really good, and just combined with Always Ready makes it even worse. So, in summary, I just think that this feature is pretty strong. In a 1-on-1 with a lot of space on the map, I don't see a lot of ways for anyone to get within melee range, or even fire back at you. And the saddening part is that Master of Dishonor, the 15th level feature, does make this worse. But before we get into that, I want to address a couple more formatting issues. We still got the starting at or beginning at, paragraph spacing, the capitalization for you, and you can now make opportunity attacks. Now, what do I mean when I say Master of Dishonor makes it worse? Let's read. At the 15th level, you may fight for good or just a selfish cause, but the truth is that you now fight with no honor or mercy. You gain the following benefits. Guerrilla casting. You can now use your bonus action to dodge when you use dynamic casting, and quick takedown, you can now attack twice when you do an attack of opportunity. Now, because of guerrilla casting, if a creature wanted to fire a ranged weapon attack against you, maybe with a longbow at 150 or 600 feet, it'd now be at disadvantage because of guerrilla casting, if they casted a spell. Plus, with quick takedown, Sentinel is more likely to hit, and combine this with ruthless tactics, getting 1d6, or I think at this point 1d10, the damage now really starts to pile up, which I just want to highlight. The damage at this part isn't a huge deal because as we just go higher and higher level, the damage balloons in general, so I think it's okay. There's also just a couple formatting issues. Starting at or beginning at, no capitalization on the U, you don't italicize, you gain the following benefits, no weird paragraph spacing, no bullet points, and it should be bolded and italicized. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, I have been ragging on you just a little bit, and I want to take this time to give a couple of compliments to the class. On the flavor side, this subclass is super cool. The idea that you're going from a dishonorable, semi-dishonorable fighter where you're rewarded for melee combat, you're getting advantage in general against enemies and etc. I think is super cool. And then over the course of the subclass, as you level up, becoming more and more dishonorable and swapping from a melee range into long range, I'm going to snipe them down, and then I'm just going to run away, scummy tactics, I think is super cool. And I don't think ever seen that in a subclass ever, really. So that's super awesome. I really want to applaud that because every feature that you've made so far in the flavor department is amazing. It hits what I believe a bounty hunter to be, at least one that is as dishonorable as this one. Now, please give yourself a round of applause for that because that is not something I see often, and I think you did a really good job with that. But I do want to say that the theming in general does have some drawbacks. If it was your intention to have this honorable, in air quotes, to dishonorable run as you level up, then it forces the player to kind of fit that archetypal mold. No longer is a subclass about a bounty hunter that gets stronger and stronger over time. It's about a bounty hunter that changes its tactics and then becomes more dishonorable. If this wasn't your angle and I'm just firing, into the darkness here, then I think some of your features need to be more generalized towards just being a bounty hunter and being a better bounty hunter over time. And then also just a general quick note on a lot of the features. These features will not break the game. I think that they're pretty strong, and in the hands of a min-maxer, they can get out of whack for sure. But this isn't, like, I'm going to kill the DM kind of level strength, if you will. I really did enjoy the Bounty Hunter, the flavoring, the mechanics. I also want to give out a shout out to the artists. I want to give one to Igor Krstic for Owl Knight, Dongho Kang for Vagabond, and ZW Gu for Ronin #2. Their art will be in the description below. That being said, thank you for watching and have a great rest of your day.